I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.
Hello fellow nerds and crafters. Today I'm going to make this mushroom jar. The lid has this cute little ruffled edge, but that is just the mold housing I think they made it out of, because the resin doesn't actually come up that high, so you won't get that effect. It is cute though. The jar itself has 4 little mushrooms, 3 on one side and a little one on the back side. I have a bunch of mica powders with me, some from Let's Resin, Magic Resin, some from Temu, and I'm just going to decide which ones to use to color in the mushrooms and the stems. There's only 4 mushrooms, so I decided to go with these pinks and reds and orange from Let's Resin. Tangerine, gold pink. Crimson, purplish red. And for the stems of the mushrooms, seashell. For the mushroom jar itself, I'm going to use this color Dark Earth by Just Resin. I'm going to fold the jar inside out and try using this eyeshadow brush to paint on the mica powder onto the mold. It holds the mica powder really well and does a good job burnishing it into the mold, but it is a little bit hard to get it in all the places, so I do end up switching to a brush later. Once I'm done with all the stems, I'll just go through all the rest of the mica colors I have using a brush and color in the mushrooms, and then clean up around the edges with a cloth. I think this would also be fun to do with some colored UV resin. The mold is very thin and see-through, so you should be able to get it to cure through the mold, and it would be far less messy, I think. Once I have all the mushrooms painted up, I'll flip the mold right side out and mixed up my resin with the dark earth color. I'm going to stop once it's over the edge of the mushroom heads and just squeeze them to try and make sure there's no bubbles in them. Once I think I've got bubbles out of everything, I'm going to fill it up in the pressure pot. And I'll do the lid first. I'm not going to fill up the lid all the way to the top, I'm just going to put it mostly to the top, and then I'm going to take a micro brush and go around the edges to make sure that there's no bubbles. Then I'll place them both in the pressure pot and fill them up so they are domed. So unfortunately, when I place this in the pressure pot, I must have squeezed the sides when I placed it in there, and it sat in an oval shape, because it is supposed to be round and the lid is round and it won't fit if the jar isn't round. It wasn't fully cured yet, it was mostly cured though, so I was able to squeeze it and get it into a more circular shape, but next time I'll have to be more careful when I place it in the pressure pot to make sure that it's staying round and doesn't go oval. So I unmolded the lid first, and I was disappointed to see that my resin pigment had dropped again. I've had this happen with this color a few times. I guess I just need to mix better. I'm going to try mixing between two different cups next time, and hopefully that will help because it leaves uncured pigment paste, and then when you clean that out it's left with holes where uncured pigment paste were sitting. So that happened on the underside of the lid, which I had to wipe down. And unfortunately, it also happened with the jar part, so I had to wipe down the mold and the piece itself to remove all of the pigment paste. You can see that the mold is round, I just must have squeezed it when I placed it in the pressure pot. I also left this a bit too long before I put pressure in my pressure pot, I believe, because it has some bubbles along the bottom as well. So I'm just going to clean this up with some isopropyl alcohol. Then I'm going to take my heat gun and heat it up a little bit to make it more malleable and try to squeeze it into a circular shape. Then I'm going to tape the lid in place and leave it to fully cure. Once it is fully cured, I'm also going to take a white paint marker and paint on the little dots on the mushrooms. Here's some photos of the finished jar. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!